up on page Kuf Lamed Zayin, the middle of the page, the section titled Covet. So remember again, we are still focusing here on the challenges, the opportunities and the challenges that come when one is granted a leadership position. So the Mechaber writes, Mivchan kasha nosaf u'mivchan hakavod. Another difficult challenge that one encounters when he is given a position of authority is the test of kavod, of honor. Al pi rov, yesh la'adam bal tafkid hano, shebnei adam tzrichim also, u'machnifim lo u'kiyotzi bazeh. In general, when a person has authority, so again, he gets hana, he gets benefit or enjoyment of being needed. Being needed, meaning everybody wants to feel needed and everybody wants to feel necessary. When a person is in a position of authority, he gets a certain hana, a certain benefit because he feels needed. And people will often go ahead and therefore ingratiate themselves to him as well because they need him. So the Kiyosi was that. So unfortunately, what happens over time is that we all begin just to enjoy that honor, that kavod, that feeling of being needed, of people going ahead and ingratiating themselves to me because, again, they need me. And it's very easy, ultimately, again, for that kavod to sometimes become a motivation for me to do certain things in life. But it's important, says the Mechaber, that a person should realize that this is a false pleasure. Tanuk Dimyoni means it's a pleasure, but it's a very short-lived, very meaningless pleasure. Chazal explained, Ezo Mechubad, do you want to know where real honor comes from? Who is the one who is Mechubad, who is given honor in life? HaMechaber es habrios, one who honors others. True honor never comes about because of something that someone does, says, or acts towards you, but true kavod is achieved through your ability to give proper kavod to honors. Perish, shakavod ha'amiti shel ha'adam. So we explain this to mean that the true honor that is accorded or afforded to man, dafka kasher mechabed es kulam. It is only when he gives honor to others, lo kishekulam mechabdim also, and not when others give honor to him. Kol shekain shelo yinatzelas ma'amado amanas lekabel tovos hano o shalmonim o ta'avos o kol davar. And all the more so, a person should not use his position of influence to get favors or to get benefits or to get some type of gifts or to satisfy some type of desires. She'enu al pi hayosher. For this is simply not just. Unfortunately, again, this is the story. We see this unfortunately unfold all of the time in political scandals where people use their position for influence to be able to get something, to be able to get some type of favor, some type of preferential treatment. So we'll say, so the point that the Mechaber is making over here is the following, that one of the other challenges, the central theme, let me take a step back here. The central theme that Mechaber is trying to develop here is that when a person is given a position of influence and a position of authority, that is given to them by Hashem, by God, in order to accomplish something important and in order to somehow be able to benefit the other. But a person has to be careful because sometimes it's easy to lose yourself in the authority. It's easy to lose yourself in the newfound power. And a person can get swept away with all of it, like kavod. Kavod is a very intoxicating thing. When a person gets a little bit of kavod, a person gets a little bit of honor. So it's so easy to get swept away with that and just feel that becomes the tachlis. The Mechaber says, don't get swept away by kavod. Kavod is a false pleasure. It comes and it goes. And not only that, we all know how it works. People give you kavod for all kinds of reasons, most notably because they want something from you. It's not real kavod, right? It's not because they like you. It's not because they feel that you really deserve this type of kavod. At the end of the day, it's because they want something from you. But it is so easy to get blinded by the kavod and to feel so honored by the kavod that you begin to do everything in life for that kavod. Says the Mechaber, a person has to be aware of that. And not only that, but again, understand that true kavod comes about in life not through what people give you, but ultimately, again, through your ability to be mechabed others. When you give kavod to others, that's true kavod. The kavod that you get from others, that's not true kavod. Adam shemargish, last paragraph on Kuf Lamed Zayin. Adam shemargish Chashivos atzmis v'gaiva. Person begins to feel a sense. Chashivos atzmis means like an inflated sense of self, an inflated ego, which of course then turns to arrogance. Bevada yipo will certainly fall. In other words, we'll say one thing is clear, which is the moment I become a Baal Gaiva, the moment that I become arrogant, the moment that I walk around with an inflated sense of self and an inflated ego, I'm going to fall. I'm going to fall. But the way covet works is in the beginning, you enjoy it. And then ultimately, again, a person begins to look at that covet as the very purpose of everything. Because you know what happens? When a person has a position of authority, and then the authority goes to their head, and they get an inflated sense of self, and they become a Baal Gaiva, so people begin to react negatively to that. The members of my household begin to disrespect me, ultimately, again, because they see the Gaivas driving me. My co-workers or those who work for me begin to talk about me behind my back because they see that what's driving me is my ego, is my inflated sense of self. He says, so we'll say, when a person allows his gaiva, when a person allows covet to become the driving force, therefore when a person becomes totally and wholly focused on the need for more and more and more covet, then suddenly again, their position of authority, their position of power is no longer about doing good, no longer about benefiting the other, but suddenly about feeding the ego. And the moment that my life becomes about feeding my ego, that's the beginning of the downfall. Page Kof Lamed Ches. We'll say, let's begin this next section. Bizyonos. Mivchan Achar. So we'll say another challenge of leadership, another challenge of leadership position. We'll say this is an amazing piece. Another challenge in leadership and authority positions is what happens when a person suffers degradation. I say degradation. Person is humiliated by another. Person is put down by another. Again, person is in a the person is in a leadership position, so they're in the spotlight in certain respects. So whenever you're in the spotlight, you always get more attention. More attention sometimes could be nice because again, it's all the wonderful covet. But sometimes what it also does is it makes you a lightning rod for criticism. So how does a person in a position of authority react to criticism? Now again, he's not just talking about criticism. He's talking about when people mamish like embarrass me, they hurt me, mevaze me. So look what he says. When a person is in a position of authority and he suffers degradation or humiliation or unwarranted criticism, know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is testing me in my emunah. What does that mean? See, even though it looks like, sometimes the criticism is warranted. Sometimes it is, but many times it's not. It's not warranted at all. So it looks like, again, when I get that criticism, it looks like I'm being criticized unfairly. But look what he writes. Remember again, what are the three pillars of emunah? The three pillars of emunah is number one, everything is from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Number two, Hakol Tova, everything is for good. And number three, everything has a tachlis. Those are the three pillars of emunah. Therefore, again, if I'm in a leadership position and I'm getting criticized and I'm humiliated and people are trampling upon me, so even though it looks like they have no right to do this, they have no right to stand there, what they're doing is mamish wrong. That might be true. They might be wrong. But this is coming from the Ribono Shel Olam. So because it's coming from the Ribono Shel Olam, ultimately again, Hakol b'tzedek u'mishpat. Everything that comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu is with tzedek u'mishpat. Ki b'vadai ein shum ta'oz b'shamayim. There are no mistakes with the Ribono Shel Olam. U'magia lo lispal b'zyonos. Most of it's an incredible yisod. And therefore, if this humiliation is coming my way, you know what? The Ribono Shel Olam wants me to experience it. La HaKadosh Baruch Hu yesh imo cheshbon shu tzarich lifroa. They will say sometimes HaKadosh Baruch Hu needs me to experience certain things. Now, I want to be clear on this. We've spoken about this concept before. And I will say, if somebody embarrasses me or humiliates me or is disrespectful or inappropriate, so that person has an achrayus for their breach bin adam lachavero. Like that person has done something wrong. So they have to do tshuva for that. They have to take an accounting for that. Me, the recipient of that negative behavior. So we'll say, I have to think about this in two ways. On one hand, I could say, well, what Reuven did to me was so wrong, right? What Shimon did to me was so wrong, and I could get caught up in that. Or I could say to myself, look, everything that happens to me in life is a message from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Everything that happens, ultimately, again, is orchestrated by the Ribono Shel Olam. The Ribono Shel Olam wanted me to have these circumstances, and as such, he's dispatching to me a message. What's the message? HaKadosh Baruch Hu obviously seems to be displeased with something, is upset with something, is sending me this message for some purpose. What is the tachlis? What is the purpose? What is the embedded message here? God has a tab with me, and I need to pay the tab. And I will say, all this person, so that individual who humiliated me, that individual who hurt me, that person is the staff of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So I will say, this is an incredible, I can't say enough. The Mechaber is not saying that the person who wronged me is freed from liability because he's the staff of God. We are all responsible for our actions. But it's a question of how you view these circumstances. Do I just get caught up with how much Shimon wronged me? Can't believe he wronged me like this. Okay, he wronged me, it happens. But again, an Emunah-dik Jew, right? A Jew, as Emunah says, well, this happened to me. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted this to happen to me. What's the message that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is sending to me? If I've been mistreated by another, not only is there a breach bin Adam L'Chavero, but there is a message bin Adam L'Makom. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is dispatching a message to me, and it is my job to try to understand what's the message. Also, we'll stop over here for today. We'll pick up Emirat Hashem with this topic. Second paragraph on Kof Lamed Ches, Emirat Hashem tomorrow. All right, Shabbos, good morning. Today's daf is Nun Ches 58. We are picking up on Nun Zayin base 57b, Tanya Kavase Rabbi Yochanan, and it's 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 lines up from the bottom. Our shir, sponsored for the month by Said and Simahakin, in honor of the month of Elul, the Yomim Noraim, and Aliyah for the Neshama of Said's father, and Mazel Tov to the Hakins on the occasion of their anniversary. Mazel Tov, al mea ve'esim shanim tovos. Also, we also dedicate our learning in the Zechus of Refuah Shalema for Esther Bas Fega and Tinok Ben Avital, who's having an important procedure done today. We hope that these cholim, together with Kol Cholei Yisrael, will experience and enduring and ongoing refuah. Amen. So let's begin. Tanya Kavasi Rabbi Yochanan. Remember again, we left off with a very fascinating discussion yesterday concerning the idea that there are certain arayos, and this is really going to be our topic for today, certain arayos, certain immoral relationships that are not technically prohibited to a ben noach. Again, specifically, we saw by the arusa. Remember, again, by a ben noach, there is no concept of marriage without living together, right? So, for example, there's no erusin by a ben noach. Ben Noach only affects marriage, ultimately, again, when the couple lives together through Bia. So what happens if a Ben Noach goes ahead and commits an immoral act that according to their code of morality is not immoral, but according to our system of immorality or of morality is illegal. So the Gemara quoted Rabbi Yochanan, who said that halacha l'maisa, we judge him in accordance with Dinei Yisrael. We judge him in accordance with Jewish law under that concept. So the Gemara says, Tanya Kavasi Rabbi Yochanan. We have a brayso that supports Rabbi Yochanan. Kol erva shebezin sheisam misan aleh. Any time that there's an arayas, any time that there's an immoral relationship that a Jewish bezin would condemn someone to death for, ben noach musar aleh. A ben noach is warned about this relationship as well. Ein bezin sheisam misan aleh. However, again, if a bezin of Yisrael would not go ahead and kill someone for a particular act of immorality, ein ben noach musar aleh. That a ben noach is not warned about this relationship as well. These words Rabbi Meir. Chachamim say, "Harbe arayos yesh she'ein bezin she'yisam misan alehem uben noach musar alehem." So Chachamim say there are many immoral acts for which a bezdin would not execute a Jew for, yet a ben noach is warned about them. Ba al arayos Yisrael. If a kusi, now again remember we're using kusi in this context as a non-Jew. So if a kusi has relations with a Jewish woman in an arayistic way, so nidon b'dinei Yisrael. Ultimately, again, he is judged in accordance with Jewish law by a bezdin. Ba al arayos ben noach. Yet again, if he engages in an immoral relationship with another ben noach, then nidon b'dinei ben noach. Then ultimately, again, he is judged in accordance with ben noach law. But for our purposes, what's the only distinction here? Va'anu. Suppose remember again, so the major distinction between our code of morality and the Kusi code of morality is a situation where a man has relations with a Na'ara HaMe'urasa. So remember again, let's say a woman is betrothed to another man, and a Kusi has relations with, so again, if a Jew has relations with a Na'ara HaMe'urasa, that's adultery, it's punishable by death. But if a Kusi has relations with a Na'ara HaMe'urasa, on a technical level, again, that is not a punishable infraction. Why? Because kusim do not recognize what? The concept of erusin. There is no concept of betrothal in kusi marital law. All there is living together in a way that affects marriage. There is nothing else. So again, the novelty is that if a kusi has relations with a nara mulasa, even though according to kusian law, he hasn't violated anything, we will judge him in accordance with Jewish law. But why don't you include a second case, which is a woman who was under the chuppah, right, who had chuppah already, but did not have biyah? That would also be a case where he saw b'chayiv for adultery, but a kusi would not. To which the Gemara says, we don't have to include that case. Hi Tana Tana Devei Menashu. This Tana is the Tana of Devei Menashe. The Amar Kol Misa Amur Lebnei Noach Ena Elachelek, who holds that any time a kusi is executed by chenek, idi v'idi cheneku. Shabbosai, whether the woman is a nara murasa or whether she went under the chuppah but yet did not have biyah with her husband, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. Both would be examples of a situation where a kusi, according to kusiyan law, would not be chayiv, be it we would judge him in accordance with Dinei Yisrael, and ultimately we would subject to chenek. Fine. B'sav Rabbi Meir, kol erva shabezin shal Yisrael misra ala ben noach musala. So does Rabbi Meir really hold that any time that a bezin of Yisrael would execute someone for an immoral infraction, that a kusi is warned about that? For Hatanya Rabos is actually a very interesting case. Ger shahaisa top of nunches. Ger shahaisa horasa shelo b'kedusha v'leidasa b'kedusha. So we'll say this is talking about a convert whose conception was shelo b'kedusha, but his birth was b'kedusha. What does this mean? His mother conceived him while she was still a Gentile. So a Gentile becomes pregnant. Then during pregnancy, she decides to convert. So we'll say that's what's called horasa shelo b'kedusha. His conception was without holiness, i.e. he was conceived by a mother who was a Gentile, but he was born technically to a Jewish mother. So we'll say, so ultimately, again, such a child has the status of a ger. It's interesting. Such a child, meaning this goes into a general discussion about the status of a fetus, uber yerachimo, uber love yerachimo. But the idea, at least for our purposes today, halacha l'maaseh is going to be something different. But for our purposes today, this child is considered to be a convert. So when the child is born, the child is considered to be a ger. So listen to this. Yesh lo she'er ha'im. So he is considered to be related to the relatives of his mother. Ve'in lo she'er ha'av. But yet again, he is not considered ultimately again to be related to the relatives from his father's side. So what the Gemara is saying over here is the fact that he's considered a ger, right? When a convert converts, as we're going to see, technically speaking, we'll call a guy, his name is Joe. And Joe has 3 sisters. Joe decides to go ahead and convert. His sisters are so inspired by his decision that they convert as well. On a technical level, Joe is permitted to marry his sisters after they convert, right? Why? Because the mice, again, they're no longer considered to be converted. Now, halacha l'maisa, we don't allow it, and the reason we don't allow it is because the Gemara says, Chazal said that it can't be that someone would say that something that was prohibited to them as a guy is now permitted to them as a Jew. As we're going to discuss, at least according to some opinions, a Gentile is not permitted to marry his sister. So it can't be that as a Gentile was not permitted to marry this girl, but now as a Jew he's able to. But I'm bringing it out. If you're a purist, the idea is that when a person converts, all familial relationships ultimately again are severed, and it's if the person is reborn. So the Gemara over here is discussing that is true in part, meaning because ultimately again this child converted along with the mother, there is a certain relationship that remains intact to the mother and her relatives, but there is no halachic relationship that remains intact to the father and his relatives. Hakeitzad, how does this play out? So the Gemara says, Nasachosa min ha'ein, if he married his maternal sister, Yotzi, then ultimately again he has to divorce her. Meaning he can't remain married. Min ha'av yikayim, but if he was married to ultimately a paternal sister, then ultimately again it would be okay. So the Gemara says, achos ha'av min ha'im, but ultimately again if he married his father's sister from the mother's side, so meaning from the father's mother's side, then Yotzi, min ha'av yikayim, achos ha'im min ha'im. If he married ultimately again his mother's maternal sister, then ultimately again Yotzi, he can't live with her, and he has to divorce her. Achos ha'im min ha'av, Rabbi Meir omer Yotzi, v'chachamim omrim yikayim. So we'll say ultimately again, if he goes ahead and he marries achos ha'im min ha'av, ultimately again his mother's paternal sister, then ultimately again then it's a machlokas. So Rabbi Meir says he has to divorce her. Chachamim say ultimately again he can't remain married to her. Sheri Meir Omer, because Rabbi Meir used to say, Kol erva shehi mishum she'er aim yotze. It's because Rabbi Meir used to say any erva that ultimately again is from a relationship to his mother, the boy or the man cannot remain married to. Mishum she'er ha'av yikayim. Ultimately again, but if it's a relationship with the father, then ultimately again he is permitted to remain married to her. So we'll say, so we're going to get to the question in just a moment. Umuter ve'eshes achim. Now we'll say, now this is still talking about the ger case. And in the case of the ger, the case of the convert, he is permitted eshes achim to marry his brother's wife. So we'll say, remember again, under normal circumstances, someone is not permitted to marry his brother's wife. Leaving aside yibum, remember again, yibum is the exception to that rule, but under normal circumstances, one's brother's wife is an erva. Yet, this ger is permitted to marry his brother's wife. Ube'eshes achi aviv, but again, when it comes to the wife of the father of his brother, usha'ar kol arayos, and as well as all the other arayos, mutaros lo, ultimately again, all of them are mutar to him. La'asuye eshes aviv, and ultimately again, this comes to include his father's wife as well. Nosa isha ubita. Now we'll say now the Gemara is transitioning. Now we're talking about a case of a kusi. Right? We're transitioning back to the case of the kusi. Nosa kusi ubita. I'm sorry. Nosa isha ubita. If a kusi, listen to this case. A kusi married a woman and her daughter. I will say. Now remember again, a Jew is not permitted to marry a woman and her daughter. A kusi has no such restriction. So the kusi went ahead and married the woman and her daughter. So what's the halacha? Komnes achos umotzi achos. So ultimately again, and in the event, what's the halacha? He's permitted to remain with one of them, but he has to go ahead and send away the other. Ulechatchila lo yichnos. But ultimately again, he should not engage in such a relationship like this. If you look at Rashi, Rashi says over here, Nasa Isha Ubita, it's in the intermediate wide lines, 2, 4, 6, 7 lines down. Nasa Isha Ubita, Ashar Gerim Koi, Ukishanasam Biosam Kusi. So also the case we're dealing with over here is a man married, a Kusi, married a woman and her daughter. Then what happened? They all converted. They all converted. So what's the halacha over here? So the Gemara says, "V'neskayru imo inam yahakay mishum dahak yor." Is fine. So I will say, what happens? So a kusi married a woman and his daughter. So for a kusi, that's totally fine. Now they all converted. So as Jews, so we'll say this shayla over here is what's going to be the halacha in this case? Because on one hand, we're just establishing the previous Gemara is what when you convert, what happens to all previous familial relationships? Essentially, they're dissolved. They're dissolved. So on a technical level, these two women are no longer mother and daughter. So yet, what's the status of the marriage? So the Gemara says, "Kones achos umotzi achos." The halacha is he can remain married to one and he has to divorce one. We'll discuss why that is. Ulechatchila lo yichnos. So look at Rashi just a moment. Ulechatchila yichnos mefarish meibam esperish beik nosin alanusa danach da amr lael yikayim kamar ulechatchila lo yichnos. But actually, the Gemara says over here that on all of the relationships that we say technically are permitted, the Gemara says lechatchila it is best to avoid these. So we'll say this is what I mentioned before. What we're going to see in these Gemaras over here is a little bit of a tension between, on one hand, that which is technically permitted, but yet again, Chazal saying lechatchila, we would rather you not do it. Why? Because it looks strange. So the same way that we said before, right? You have a Gentile brother and sister. They both decide to convert. Can they marry each other? Technical answer is yes. But Chazal said again, don't do it. Don't do it. Why? Because it looks strange, because it looks like something that was prohibited before is permitted now. Technically speaking, a kusi, is married to a woman and her daughter. For a kusi, totally permitted. They now go ahead and convert. Can they remain married on a technical level? The answer is yes, because again, this woman and daughter are no longer relations to one another. But Lamais, again, the Gemara says, no, you can only remain married to one. And L'chatchila, it is better to avoid all of these circumstances. Meisa ishto, let's say again, once his wife dies, mutter bechamoso. Ultimately, again, he is permitted to go ahead and marry his mother-in-law. Now, also, under normal circumstances, the halacha is that a mother-in-law is prohibited. It's not one of the great nisyonos. but the idea over here is that lamaisa, so a mother-in-law is an erva even once one's wife dies. She remains an erva. This case, interestingly enough, once his wife dies, so again, the mother-in-law will be permitted to the son-in-law. What's the logic there? Look at Joshua just a moment. So we understand. First of all, it's not a chiddush, right? Remember, these are all converts. So therefore, again, on a technical level, although this woman is the mother of his wife, on a halachic level, that relationship doesn't exist. So on a technical level, she's not an erva. Now, Rashi points out the novelty in this ruling. So we'll say the novelty over here is that, remember, the ger was married to this woman, right? Ultimately, and it was also a gioris. And they had a marriage in there as gerim. So again, even though, again, they had a marriage as gerim, and even though, again, so meaning there was this relationship with his wife's mother, the ben Noach lo husar al chamoso. That ultimately, again, a ben Noach ultimately is not, there is no erva between a ben Noach and his mother-in-law. The name of Abayim Likidusha. The chamoso mamish lahadya, af agav din eskayer, the ger shin eskayer, ve'in korva zelazet. So the Moshe is pointing out on a technical level, they're not really related. On a technical level, she's not really his mother-in-law, and therefore, when the wife is alive, she'll be an erva. But when the wife is not alive, she's no longer an erva. Or I should say, she's never really an erva. But when the wife is alive, again, we would prohibit him from marrying her, the mother-in-law. But once the wife has died, then the wife again there's no erva status there. Amar Yehuda. So the Gemara says, but 1 second, others say that he's prohibited to his mother-in-law. Amar Yehuda lo kasha ha Rabbi Meir aliba de Rabbi Elazar de Rabbi Eliezer v'ha Rabbi Meir aliba de Rabbi Akiva. Oh, they both say it's reflecting two different opinions. One brayso is reflecting the view of Rabbi Eliezer. One brayso is reflecting the view of Rabbi Akiva. What are the two opinions that we're mentioning over here? So listen to this Gemara. So listen to this brayso. Alkin Yaazov ish es aviv ve'es imo. So listen to this. So the Gemara actions over here are the following. Therefore, a man will leave his father and mother. B'davak bi'ishto. He will cling to his wife. V'hayu lebasra echad. I will say, remember again, where is this pasuk found? This is found in Bereshis, right? This is found after HaKadosh Baruch Hu creates Chava. So he says this to Adam and Chava. Al ken yazov ish es aviv v'imo. Therefore, when a man will marry a woman, he will leave his father and mother. V'davak be'ishto, he will cling to his wife. And I will say, as we're going to see, this pasuk is exceptionally important because this pasuk lays the foundation for the code of morality for Bnei Noach. Remember again, Adam HaRishon was not a Jew. Rishon was not a Jew. Adam HaRishon, it would be wrong to call Adam HaRishon a Ben Noach also. Adam HaRishon was a human being. He was the father of humanity. So whatever rules Adam HaRishon had are pretty much the rules, the general code of morality for what later on become the offspring of Noach. Remember again, Noach is the second. Good morning, Mr. Schoenfeld. Noach is the second Adam HaRishon. So this is the pasuk that serves as the foundation for Noachide morality. So watch this. Get ready. So Rabbi Kiva, I'm sorry. Rabbi Elazar Omer, Aviv. What does Aviv mean? What does it mean he has to leave his father? Achos Aviv. That refers ultimately again to the sister of his father. What that means is Al kin yazov ish es Aviv means a man is prohibited to marry or to have relations with his father's sister. That's what Aviv means. Imo, achos imo. What does mother mean? Mother means his mother's sister. So paternal aunt, maternal aunt. Or fine, paternal sister, maternal sister. Rabbi Kiva Omer, watch this. Eishes Aviv is Eishes Aviv. No. When the pasuk says Al kin yazov Aviv, it means that a man is not permitted to have relations with his father's wife. Imo mamish. Mother means actual mother. That a mother is one's own mother is an erva. Vidavak. The boss said this is actually quite interesting. What does davak mean? He will cling to his wife. Velo bizocher. So we'll say this comes to prohibit homosexuality, right? This comes to prohibit mishkav zachar. Now we'll say, now here's what's fascinating. Where does that drasha come from? So if we look at Rashi says over here, it's in the fourth Y line. The davak velo bizachar, diika dibuk dimitoch shein hanishkav nana einid bakima. Let's listen to this. There's an assumption. What does it mean by davak beishto? He will cling to his wife. So we'll say there is an assumption that the Gemara is making over here, that Rabbi Meir is making over here, that the connection, one of the strongest connections between husband and wife is a sexual bond. Is the fact that they have a unique, intimate relationship that is not shared with anyone else. And because the woman receives pleasure from that relationship and the man receives pleasure from that relationship, a devekus is created, a connection is created. So the Rabbi Akiva says that same pleasurable act cannot be found between two men. So because it cannot be found between two men, a homosexual union cannot create dvekus, and therefore by definition it's usher. So which is amazing, by the way. Remember, I want to be clear on something. Klal Yisrael, we have an explicit Isser D'Oraisa about homosexuality, about Mishkav Zachar. So this is not, we learn this out explicitly. We must talking about over here, from where do we know for the basic code of a Ben Noach that a homosexual relationship is usher? So it's amazing. We're going to see there's another drasha for it, but it's learned out ultimately again from this Dvekus. V'lo b'zachar, be'ishto, with his wife. What does that come to teach us? V'lo be'eshes chavero. Ultimately, again, that also teaches me not with my friend's wife. In other words, that there's a prohibition of adultery. V'hayula basar echad, and the man and woman become one flesh. So I'll say, remember again, Rashi points out, v'hayula basar echad is ayidei havlad. That means that it is a union. The only type of union that is permitted is the type of union that could potentially produce children. That doesn't mean, let's say, if a couple is infertile, that marriage will be prohibited. What it means is the tzura of the relationship is such that it has the ability to create life. That's what it means. Vayula basar echad. They become one flesh through a child. Misha nasim basar echad. This only comes to say that the only type of union that is permitted is the type of union which could potentially produce children. Yotzu behema v'chaya she'ein nasim basar echad. This comes to exclude bestiality, which has no ability to create offspring. So they shouldn't bring down also, this would be another drasha, ultimately again, to prohibit mishkav zachar, right? To prohibit homosexuality for the same idea, because it's not a relationship ultimately that could produce offspring. Omar Mar, So Rabbi Eliezer Omer Aviv, Achos Aviv. So remember again, now we're going to go back in Darshan. So we'll say this is amazing because you would never think, it always intrigued me. Like there's nothing unnecessary or extra in the Torah. So I always wondered, like, what does this pasuk teach? I mean, again, remember, it provides an incredible amount of beautiful fodder for Sheva Brachas Divrei Torah. It's fantastic. But like, what does it teach us? Now what the Gemara is teaching, telling us is that no, this is a pivotal pasuk because embedded in this pasuk is the very halakhic code for the entire framework of Noachide morality. So the Gemara now breaks it down. We're going to dash it. Amar Rabbi Eliezer Omer Aviv. Achos Aviv. Rabbi Eliezer dashes on the pasuk says Aviv. Aviv comes to tell me that the father's sister is prohibited. Ema Aviv Mamish. Why don't you say that the pasuk is coming to tell me that relations with my father are asur? Why maybe it's coming to teach you Aviv that a man is not permitted to have relations with his father. I don't need that. We have a different drush that teaches us about Mishkav Zachar. That's V'davak. From the Davak we learn out that Mishkav Zachar is asur. Ema Eishes Aviv. So ultimately again, so the Gemara says maybe it refers to my father's wife. Hainu Bi'ishto v'lo Be'eshes Chavero. I learned that out already from the drush of Ishto. Ishto teaches me I'm only permitted to my wife and not my friend's wife. My friend's wife includes my father's wife as well. Ema la'achar misa. Maybe what it's saying is coming to teach me that a father's wife is asur even after the death of the father, to which the Gemara says dumya di'imo. Ma'imo delav ishus. Ultimately against Gemara, just as imo teaches me an isser that is not just by marriage. Aviv delav ishus. Therefore again, Aviv is also coming to teach me an isser that is not just through marriage. Imo. So again, how do we dash? And we said the word imo, achos imo, comes to teach me that a mother's sister is prohibited. The imo mamish. Maybe it's coming to tell me that what? That one's mother is mamish asur to him. I know why I learned that out from the word ishto, because ishto teaches me one is only permitted in his own wife and not in the wife of his fellow. I maybe was coming to teach you that even after the death of my father, death of a father, a mother is still prohibited. Dumya da'aviv, ma'aviv delav mamish, af imo delav mamish. So we'll say, therefore, again, imo is similar to aviv. Just as aviv is not talking about actual prohibition regarding the father, so to imo is not talking about the actual prohibition regarding the mother as well. Rabbi Kiva says, aviv, eishes aviv. So Rabbi Kiva darshans the word aviv. Aviv comes to teach me that a man is prohibited in his father's wife. Ve'ema aviv mamish. Maybe it's coming to teach you that he's prohibited in his actual father. Hainu v'davak v'lo b'zachar. I learned that I was from the word v'davak. V'davak teaches me v'lo b'zachar, that mishkav zachar, homosexuality is asur. Ihachi eishes aviv nami hainu be'ishto v'lo be'eshes chaveiro. But if that's the case, ihachi eishes aviv, even a father's wife, I can learn that out from ishto and not eshes chaveiro. To which the Gemara says la'achar misa. It's coming to teach you that the father's wife is prohibited even after the death of the father. Imo, what do I learn out from imo? Imo mamish, right? Ultimately, again, the Akiva learns out that what? This is referring mamish to an explicit prohibition of one's mother. But I can learn that out from the Josh of Ishto and not the wife of my friend. To which the Gemara says, Imo me anosasa. What's the what we be talking about? A situation where a man's father violated his mother. In other words, parents aren't married. And ultimately, again, so there's no marital union, there's no relationship between ultimately and father and mother. Man violated the woman. The child is the offspring of that union. So ultimately, again, I need imo to teach. So in this case, the mother is not the wife of the father. Therefore, imo teaches me that such a mother is still prohibited to the individual. So we might come and forget. We'll say at the end of the day, what is the machlokes in Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Akiva? So the Gemara says Rabbi Eliezer says, Amud Beis, Aviv dumya di'imo, v'imo dumya da'aviv, lo mishkachas la, ela ba'achva. So we'll say, Rabbi Eliezer holds that Lamaisa, since Aviv and Imo are grouped together in the pasuk, so the pasuk is comparing them to one another. The only way you could create comparable isurim for Aviv and Imo is if the pasuk is referring to both of their respective sisters. Rabbi Akiva, mutav la'okme be'eshes aviv, di'ikre ervas aviv. So Rabbi Akiva says it is better to go ahead and interpret aviv as referring to a father's wife, because ultimately, again, a father's wife is called an erva of the father. La fuke achos aviv, as opposed to the father's sister, the she'er aviv ikri, ervas aviv lo ikri. So a father's sister in the Torah is referred to as she'er, a relative, but not referred to as an erva. Okay, so Tashma. So we'll say again, so just pointing out over here that pasuk that we've seen so many times, and we interpret it just as a beautiful statement about marriage, right? The man leaves his family, he clings to his wife, they become one. Yes, it is a beautiful pasuk about marriage, but it also serves as the fundamental source for Noahide laws of morality. And again, how to darshan that pasuk, or what we learn from it, Machlokus Rabbi Kiva and Rabbi Eliezer. Tashma. Vayikach Amram es Yocheved dodaso. We'll say now the Gemara is going to, in light of the previous machlokas, the Gemara is going to try to dash in some other psukim. So the pasuk tells us that Amram married Yocheved, his aunt. Married Yocheved, his aunt. Now we'll say, remember again, what are you talking about? My love, dodaso mina'im. Is then not referring to the fact that Yocheved was his aunt on his mother's side. Now that would represent the kasha, because what did we say? We said that ultimately, again, there is a share, right? There is ultimately, again, immorality with a mother's sister. So they're not talking about his mother from his sister, his from his mother, his aunt from his mother's side, to which the Gemara says, Lo, doda somin ha'av. No, it's actually talking about ultimately, again, his aunt from his father's side. Take a look at Rashi for just a moment. Lo, it's actually almost right across. My love, achos kahas af mina'im haisa, v'hutra la'amram, alma achos av mina'im muteras al kodem matan Torah. So we'll say that this would teach me that a father or sister would be permitted to someone. Again, this is not such a kasha because this is before Matan Torah, right? This is before we were given the Torah. As such, again, we know many things were permitted before Matan Torah that were not permitted after Matan Torah. But yet, again, what it does tell us is that whatever is going to be mutter before Matan Torah, presumably, would still be mutter for a ben Noach today. So you're telling me then that a ben Noach could technically marry his mother's sister, to which the Gemara answers no. Yocheved was Amram's aunt on his father's side. And we just got finished saying before that what? That the Isser Erva for a ben Noach only applies on his mother's side, not on his father's side. Tashma, vegam amna achosi bas avihi, achlo bas imi. So the Gemara says the final verse. This is about Avram Avinu. So this is about Avram Avinu. Remember again, when Sarah was taken, and Avram goes ahead and, right, this happened twice. Some by Avimelech, this happened by Paro. So remember again, Avram Avinu says, I didn't really lie to you. I told you she's my sister, but she really is my sister. She's Amnam Achosi Bas Avi. She is my sister, the daughter of my father, but not the daughter of my mother. Mechlal de Bas Ha'im Asura. So we can infer from this is that what? That the daughter of one's mother would be usher to a ben Noach. Avram Avinu was a ben Noach. V'tizbara. One second, you can't bring any rayas in here. Achosahavi. Remember, was Sarah Imenu really Avram Avinu's sister? Bas Ochiv Havi. Remember again, Sarah was actually Avram Avinu's niece. Was Avram Avinu's niece? She was Avram Avinu's brother's daughter. So she wasn't ultimately again his sister. Ultimately, again, in this type of relationship, there's no erva involved. Whether she was related to him on his father's side and his mother's side would not have made a difference. Elahasam hachi kamarle. Rather, what Avram Avinu was trying to say was the following: Kurva da achos isli bahada me abba v'lo me'ima. I have a closeness to her, familial closeness to her, but that familial closeness is on my father's side, not on my mother's side. Fine. Tashma. Mipnei ma lo nasa Adam es bito. So we'll say, why did Adam HaRishon not marry his daughter? We'll say, what the Gemara is asking over here is the following. Obviously, the laws of Arayos, right, as we have them now, and even as Bnei Noach have it now, were dramatically different in the beginning of humanity. In the beginning of humanity, the marital pool was obviously much smaller. So the Gemara asks, remember, again, by definition, there is a need for family to marry each other to begin with. So why didn't Adam HaRishon marry his daughter? Why didn't he marry his daughter? So the Gemara says, Kidei she'isa kainas achoso. In order that Cain should be able to marry her, Shene'emar, Ki amarti olam chesed yibana. Because I said the world is built from chesed. It's actually very interesting. Take a look at Rashi for just a moment. Chesed yibana. Rashi says, Tchilaso shel olam nimna b'chesed. The beginning of the world was built on the pillar of chesed. Shetziva Adam HaRishon ligmo chesed esbeno, va'asra lo v'tir l'kayin. So we'll say again, Adam HaRishon does not have children with this daughter in order to be able to provide for Cain a spouse. This was an act of chesed that Adam HaRishon did for his son Cain. Ki yikach ish v'ito k'deshina olav. Haynu t'chsiv ki yikach ish as achoso bas aviv chesedu ma she'tarti l'kayin chesed gamal timos. Well, this is actually interesting. Later on, when the Torah describes certain immoral relationships, it describes it as a chesed, So interesting, the way Rashi is interpreting that is that you'll say these relationships were permitted earlier on. They were permitted earlier on as a chesed to humanity, to allow humanity to build itself, but they are no longer permitted in the already established world of humanity. So this is an incredible yesod. The world is built on chesed. The first act of chesed was that Adam HaRishon did not marry his daughter, but rather left her ultimately for Cain to have her as a wife. So the Gemara says, Halav haki asira. But what do we see from here? Were it not for this, such a relationship ultimately again would be us. In other words, that ultimately, again, the only reason why Cain was permitted to marry his sister was because there was no other choice to build humanity. But you see from here that ultimately, again, Ben Noach would be usher to marry his sister, to which the Gemara says, Kevan the Ishtari. No, once Cain was permitted to marry his sister, so Bnei Noach remained permitted to marry their sisters as well. Now we're going to discuss the scope of that in just a moment. Amar Rav Huna, Kusi mutter bebito, excuse me. So Rav Huna says a kusi, a Gentile, is permitted to marry his daughter. Rashi says over here, kusi mutter bebito. It's in the short lines, about 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, about 15 lines from before it gets wide. Kusi mutter bebito. Bein Rabbi Eliezer, bein Rabbi Akiva. Because Rav Huna lo yafinan she'er arayos mehanach tichsiv b'haikra. We departed kolhani shmamina dafka kasina. So mostly this is actually very interesting. Rav Huna holds that all of the arayos, all of the prohibited relationships for a ben Noach are learned out from the pasuk of Al Kin Yazov Ish Es Aveves Imo V'Davak B'Ishtav Hayir LeBasar Echad. So all the forbidden relationships, learn that from there. If you are not in that pasuk, then what? Then it's mutter. Who's not in that pasuk? A daughter. Therefore, says Rav Huna on a technical level, a ben Noach is permitted to go. A kusi is permitted to marry his daughter. Ve'im tomar mipnei malo nasa adam es bito. So if that's the case, why did Adam Rishon not marry his daughter? K'dei sheyisa Cain es achoso. In order that ultimately, again, Cain would go ahead and marry. In order that Cain would have someone to marry, mishum olam chesed yibara. Because we'll say ultimately, again, this even though on a technical level, Adam HaRishon had the quote unquote legal right to marry his daughter, he left her for Cain as an act of chesed. That Cain should have someone to marry because the world is built on chesed. Others say, Kusi Asr Bebito. Others will say an alternate version of this, that Rav Huna said, in fact, that a Kusi is Asr to marry his daughter. Where do we know that from? Teda Shlo Nasa Adam Es Bito. Ultimately, again, that Adam did not marry his daughter. So the fact that Adam did not marry his daughter shows you that what? That a Kusi, a Gentile, is not permitted to marry his daughter. Velohi, once he came right from Adam, Hasam Hainu Taime Kadeshi Yisa Kaines Achoso, Mishum the Olam Chesed Yibana. Ultimately, again, the reason Adam does not marry his daughter is to leave her as a wife for Cain as an act of chesed, for the world is built on chesed, which Shabbos is an incredible yesod also that you see, although this is an interesting form of chesed, but you see that sometimes the greatest form of chesed is to take something that technically you are entitled to take something that's on a technical level you have a right to, and to yield it to the other. That's sometimes the greatest form of chesed. I'm entitled to it, it's mine, but I choose to share it with the other. Eved mutar bi'imo umutar b'bito. So what's another interesting case? An Eved. Now what's the case of it? This is an Eved Kanani who belongs to a Jew. Now what's an Eved Kanani who belongs to a Jew is an interesting thing because he's a little bit of a, it's like a nishtahin nishtaher. He's not a Jew obviously, but he's also not a Gentile. Remember again, when an Eved Kanani becomes the Eved of a Jew, he gets a milah, he gets a bris milah l'shem abdus and a tvila l'shem abdus. So on one hand, mutar bi'imo, he's permitted, right, to have relations with his mother, umutar bebito, and ultimately again he's permitted to have relations with his daughter as well. Now Rashi says over here, mutar bi'imo ubebito, v'koshkin b'sharayo shel korba. He's permitted to anyone. Why? Because yatsa mechlal kusi. On one hand, he's no longer a kusi. He's no longer a Ben Noach because again, therefore, he's not subject to their code of morality. Uliklam Yisrael lo ba, but he's also not a Jew. So we'll say this is an amazing situation where essentially he's pretty much not bound by any code of morality. Ben Noach sheyichid shifcha la'abdo u'ba'alaha. So we'll say if a Ben Noach went ahead and set aside a maidservant for his evet, the Ben Noach has a maidservant. He set it aside for his evet, u'ba'alaha, and then he had relations with her. Neragala. We'll say the Ben Noach is executed. Now, why is the Ben Noach executed? We learned this in yesterday's daf. Because what does that constitute? That constitutes gezel, right? That constitutes theft. One of the shemis of Ben Noach is, or one of the things they can't do is theft. And remember, again, we pass in that Ben Noach is executed for any time they violate any of the shemis of Ben Noach. So if he sets aside a shifcha for his maidservant and then has relations with her, he is executed ultimately again because of theft. Me'imas. But I will say, at what point in time, ultimately, again, first wide line, at what point in time is she considered to be set aside for the Evet? Amrav Nachman, Midikarle Revisa de Planyo. When people begin to refer to her as the girl of so-and-so. In other words, when she's already being referred to ultimately as the girl of this particular Evet, she's considered to be miyachid, or she's set aside for him. Ume'emas hatarasa. And at what point in time, I will say, is she considered to be, a free agent, so to speak, no longer connected to this Evet? So it's actually quite amazing when she would walk around with uncovered hair. So apparently, again, in times of the Gemara, even a shifcha apparently would cover her hair in public. It's quite interesting. And therefore, again, she would cover her hair in public. And when would she know that she was no longer associated or connected with this Eved? When she would go out with uncovered hair. If a Ben Noach has relations with his wife, Shalo Kedarga, he is chayiv. Now, this is a very strange Gemara, as we're going to point out in just a moment. So the Gemara says, Shenemar, v'davak bi'ishto v'lo Shalo Kedarga. So we'll say, ultimately, again, remember, davak bi'ishto means the type of relations that creates a connection between a man and a woman, which the Gemara understands to be bia kedarka, regular bia, but not bia Shalo Kedarga. Therefore, the Gemara says, if a Ben Noach has relations with the wife Shalo Kedarka, schayv misa. What does that mean? Amar Rava, mi'ika midi di Yisrael lo mechayiv, v'kusi mechayiv. I don't understand. A Jew is permitted to have relations with his wife Shalo Kedarka. There's no chiyuv misa. Remember, again, I will say, Torah is mishkavei isha, which means the Torah recognizes two different forms of bia between a husband and the wife. Bia kedarka, bia Shalo Kedarka. So for a Yisrael, it's mutter, but ultimately, again, for a kusi is going to be chayiv. Amar Rav, rather Rav says what it means is Ben Noach shabal ishes chavero Shalo Kedarka potter. I will say what it means is that if a Ben Noach has relations with someone else's wife Shalo Kedarka, he will be potter. My time, I will say, what's the reason for that? Be ishto v'lo be'ishes chavero, because although the pasuk says that Ben Noach is only permitted be'ishto, not Eishes Chavero, v'dovak v'shlo Shalo Kedarka. The only type of bia, said that for a Ben Noach constitutes adultery is a bia Kedarka, but not a bia Shalo Kedarka. Which I will say, so I'll tell you something interesting. I don't have time for it now, really, but there is a fascinating Tosas over here. This Tosas mi'ika midi dili yisol shar lekusi aser. So the Gemara says over here something very interesting. The Gemara assumes over here that bia Shalo Kedarka is mutter for a Yisrael. It's mutter for a Yisrael, that's permitted for a Jew. So Rashi, take a quick look at it, just for a second. Tosas says mashma to the Yisrael mutter be ishto b'Shalo Kedarka. So the Gemara seems to say over here that bia Shalo Kedarka is mutter for a Yisrael. So I'll say, if you skip down a little bit, so the kasha, the Besol Paragil Divamas, Chashav Shlo Kedarka Mase Erva Onen. Let's see the contradiction. Because the Gemara also discusses the idea that Bia Shlo Kedarka is Aser. We'll say, why would Bia Shlo Kedarka be Aser? The Gemara calls it a Maisa of Aaron Onen. Aaron Onen were the two sons of Yehuda. Why do Aaron Onen both die? Why are they both killed by HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Because they wasted their zera, they wasted their seed. The Gemara calls an act of Bia Shlo Kedarka a wasting of zera, because the Most say it's an act of relations that cannot result in pregnancy. And by definition, any act of relations which cannot result in pregnancy should really be ashchasa zera levatala, should be a wasting of seed, and should be punishable by death. That is a very serious infraction. So we have a contradiction. So Tosas gives an amazing answer over here. Tosas v'yishlomar דלא אסר אלא שעושה כך תדיר, שלא תסעבר ויחש יופיו. אבל אם רוב תשמישו כדרכו, אלא שבאקראי מסעבר לו שלא כדרכו שרי. So this is amazing. This is such a non-halakhic answer. Tosa says that Bia Kedarka is usher when a man only has relations with his wife in that way in order to avoid her becoming pregnant. Why does a man want to avoid his wife becoming pregnant? Well, it's like Aaron and Onan did not want Tamar to become pregnant. Why? Because Tamar was exceptionally beautiful. They were afraid that pregnancy would take away from her beauty. Therefore, they purposely wasted their sarah. So again, if a man only has relations with his wife Shloki Darka in order to avoid her becoming pregnant, that's usher. That's the Ma'aser of Onan. But ultimately, again, if they have a normal relationship, and that's not his concern, but sometimes, again, they choose to engage in that form of bias, Tosa says that's not usher, which is quite fascinating. That's the approach Tosa takes. Like this, again, it's a much bigger topic, but not for now. So the Gemara goes back. Let's just go a little bit back. If a non-Jew strikes a Jew, he's chayiv misa. Shneimar va'yifen kol v'kol v'yar ki ein ish v'yachas hamitzri. Moshe Rabbeinu ultimately goes ahead and looks here and here, and he kills the Egyptian. Why did he kill the Egyptian? Ultimately, again, because the Egyptian struck the Jew. To hate a Jew, literally to slap a Jew is like slapping the Shechina. Shneimar mokesh adam yola kodesh. So Gemara goes like the Rish Lakish. So we'll say if somebody raises his hand against this fellow, even though he didn't actually hit him, he's called the Rasha. So the act of raising a hand against another Jew, even if you don't hit the other Jew, is enough to call you a Rasha. It's because remember again, Moshe Rabbeinu is telling the Dasan Aviram, says to them, Rasha, why lama sakya? Why would you hit your friend? Lama hi kisalanem. I will say it doesn't say why did you hit your friend? Past tense. I was assuming that he hit him. Ela lama sakya. So I will say the way the Gemara is darshaning is lama sakya means why would you have intended to hit your friend? So you see from here that the intention to hit another Jew, even if you don't actually hit him, makes you a Rasha. Afa bishleiko nikra Rasha. Nikra chote. Someone who goes in and has intention to hit another Jew is called a sinner. Shnei Amar, v'im lo lakachti bechazaka, uksiv v'im lo lakachti bechazaka. If you do not give it to me, ultimately, again, I will take it with force. So this is a reference to the sons of Eli, Kohen, Chafni, and Pinchas. When people would come to offer up karbanos in the Mishkan, they would say, listen, give us some meat from your karban, and if not, we're going to take it with force. Uksiv v'atihi chatas ha'na'arim gedolamot. So we'll say, what did they do? Chafni and Pinchas threatened to hit people. They threatened to hit people. They threatened to use physical force if people were not given the sacrificial meat. And what do you see? The pasuk says, "Vati chatas hana'arim gedola ma'od." The sin of the children was great. So in other words, you see the fact that they threatened to hit someone, even though what? They didn't actually hit the person, calls them a chote. Calls them ultimately against someone who was a sinner. Rav Huna Amar Tikatzitz Yado. Rav Huna says someone who threatens to hit another Jew, he should have his hand cut off. Shnei Amar Uzroa Rama Tishaber. Ultimately, again, this is a play on words. He who raises his hand, Zroa Rama, he who raises his hand, Tishaber, should have that hand broken off. Rav Huna Katzatz Yada. This is actually amazing. The Gemara says Rav Huna actually cut off the hand of someone. Look at Rashi. Rashi says in the wide line, 6 lines in, Katzatz Yada, Me Adam Echad, She'ragi lahakos es chavero. So I'll say there was a person who used to habitually hit others, V'kanso b'kach. And Rav Huna ordered that his hand be cut off. Now, where does it say that in the Torah? The answer is it doesn't. But again, this was a penalty that he imposed. So we'll say Beis has a right to go ahead and punish even outside of a biblical framework for the greater benefit of society. Therefore, again, Rav Huna felt that this person was constantly acting inappropriately despite being warned multiple times, and therefore ordered that his hand be amputated. So we'll stop over here for today. Again, want to be here on time tomorrow because we're starting with Mamish. Magnificent Gemara first tomorrow to be continued in Hashem.